Showtime.
And we're live in the kitchen. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Lunch and Life with me, Sharon Gelfand, and my beautifully talented chef, Robin Joy Myers.
Oh, thank you, Sharon. That's so kind of you.
True. You definitely are the one to come up with all these different recipes and ideas. And so let's talk about what we're doing this week.
Let's do it. So, we spent this past month or 3 weeks of the month of January talking about the new year and how we can set our intentions and joy, right? So the J was just being, the O was owning, and the Y was you, right? So each of these stages leading up to this week. So as we build our intentions and as we go through finding our real, true, authentic joy, how do we nourish that? And how do we keep that nourishment so it's all a play and a metaphor, but how do we keep nourishing it so we stay true to our intentions and we stay true to finding that true joy? And so I thought what would be really fun, you being that functional holistic nutritionist, what would be really fun though is I love creating these nourish bowls. And what it is just vegetables. I have my favorites, you have your favorites, but mixing vegetables with a grain of some sort. My daughter is a vegan, and so I'm vegetarian, sometimes vegan when I'm with her. But it's not just buying to buy, but it's also using what you have. And so it's a way to make a very healthy, well-balanced meal. You can get into all of those sort of things, but for me, it's a healthy, balanced meal that tastes incredibly good. It's warm, it's filling, it's nourishing mind, body, and soul. And it's just comforting. It's kind of that healthy comfort food that's so easy to make. And so we decided to bring it live and see what happens, because I feel sometimes like we're Ethel Merman and Lucille Ball at the same time. I feel like something.
Do you remember the episode with
I'm at my kitchen island, and all I can think of is the chocolate factory.
For those of you who why go Google it, go to YouTube.
Yeah, that will be us at some point. We'll have chocolate rolling somehow.
Yes, absolutely.
So let's create nourish bowls and talk about it. And you'll hear my oven in the background. It's just about finished, but it's kicking in a little bit.
Yeah, what I love when you mentioned this idea about the nourish bowl, because I'd really never heard that term. And you hear acai bowl, and you hear all these different bowls that are created for the summertime. And for me in the winter, you're right, it's like the grounding and nourishment of all these vegetables, and it can help root us. So this is just so perfect. And what's great is that we can use anything that we want. So that being said, before I pass it back to you, what's important and what I want to, just share with everybody is, Robin said that she's vegetarian, sometimes vegan. I'm not anything. Sometimes I'm vegan, sometimes I'm vegetarian, a carnivore, or a pescatarian. I listen to my body for what works for me, as does Robin, her daughter, and all of you. So the one thing that I do want to mention, whatever you are, vegan, especially a vegan or a vegetarian, is the source of where can I get protein for these bowls.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where we pick different types of grains like quinoa, millet, even brown rice or wild rice, to bring in more of the protein so that we can make a well-rounded, colorful bowl.
Right. And that's where I think, your expertise is so important for me. You teach me so much, because that protein is so important, right? I'm not a meat eater anymore. I feel better not eating those things. And that's why I choose not to eat those things. So nothing's wrong with it if you do. It's just for my body, I feel healthier. My body works better not eating those things. So, but how do I obviously bring in what I need to stay healthy? So that's where your expertise comes into play. And the beauty of this is, right now with the warmth, this kind of meal, as we'll show you, is so easy to make. But it's one of those things that if you are alone, or you have people coming, or you have a family, everyone can pick and choose what they want to create their bowl with, right? Or it's great to make oversized amounts so you have it the next day. It's just one of those versatile things that you'll see that you can eat it cold, eat it hot, whatever you want.
And to that point of making, a larger amount so that you could have it every day, this goes back to things that we've said in past shows about planning. Looking at your week and deciding, having an idea, just like you plan your business or you plan a kid's schedule or other schedules, you have to plan food as well and not assume that it's just going to come to you, because then 4 o'clock hits and you're starving and you grab the coffee, the soda, the candy bar, and then you're like, oh, there's nothing to eat for dinner. I don't know what to make. I'm exhausted. So taking at the beginning of the week to plan, you can make, and what I want to show you here is that, like, I haven't even taken them out of the pot yet, right? So I've made millet in one pot. I've made quinoa in another. I have brown rice. What did you make for your grain?
I actually have Jasmine Brown Rice, and I just put a little bit. See, I'm so terrible at doing this. I actually just put a little in a bowl so I can create a bowl, and then the rest I have on the side. But I use just a Jasmine Brown Rice.
That's absolutely beautiful. Your bowl, I love that. Mine.
Why, thank you.
But being able to do this, so batch cooking. So I do, and I know Robin does a lot of this also, is to just make a batch of this, put them into glass containers because they stay better. And this way you have it all separate. And to Robin's point of, let's say you have people over or you have a finicky eater, they can pick and choose what they want. And then even with the vegetables, we both made different vegetables. So I chop up, as did Robin, so I'm just going to show you. I'm on my tippy toes. I don't want this to go flying off this. Imagine. Sweet potato, broccoli, parsnips, tomato, cauliflowers on my other tray. Picking vegetables that are the colors of the rainbow and being able to different types. So you have root vegetables, and I'll go over, the nutrition after. Oh my God, how beautiful.
So I have asparagus, yellow pepper, tomatoes, onion, and some sweet potatoes. And really simply, to be quite honest, and we'll go over the whole thing. I salt, a little olive oil, salt, pepper, and then I just put some cinnamon, because I like cinnamon pretty much on anything that will take cinnamon, on the sweet potatoes, just to give them a little bit of a different taste. But I still have sitting here some extra sweet potatoes that I'll put in a container that I just make my little wedges like that. And I still have some extra onion, which we go through a lot of onions. I'm not really sure why, but it's just kind of a rough chop, and you do with it as you want.
Yeah. So I think what's really important, because we both showed you that, like, I chopped mine up. Robin had wedges and did the lengths. Because a lot of times I find that people ask, well, how do I, what sizes need to be? Because sometimes we just don't, if we're not cooking regularly, we think like we overthink it. And It doesn't matter, it really doesn't. What size it is, what shape it's in. Because at the end of the day, my way, all right, I chop it up beforehand so that I could just use a fork. Other way is to do it the wedges and the lengthwise, and then you use a knife and fork. So it doesn't matter. It's whatever's going to be easier for you, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I love too adding cinnamon. And do you know that my son actually introduced the cinnamon to the sweet potato for me? And I thought, wow, this is so amazing. And some of the spices that I like to use turmeric and coriander. I'm like going off screen here. Cumin and ginger. And people say, oh, it's so boring. All these vegetables or the chicken, there's everything. I'm just tired of it. When you start adding spices and you play around with the spices, first things first, right? It brings a robust flavor to your mouth. And spices are great. They're, especially the ones here that I'm showing you, they're anti-inflammatory. They have antioxidants in them. Cinnamon is great at helping to manage your blood sugar levels. Have you found that when you've gone to the store that the spice racks are empty now.
Totally. Totally. It's really hard. And for a while, not only was it hard to get cinnamon, I had trouble finding cinnamon, which is strange, and I'll probably need some soon. Red chili flakes. I found that it was impossible to get red chili flakes.
Yeah.
Everybody was spicing up with red chili flakes.
And so, COVID's been actually a great opportunity to add in flavors with spices. So when people get bored, or, my clients like, oh, I need something different, change it up with spices. It's amazing what that could do. And there's such variety. And, it's a great way to just expand your palate and increase like the repertoire of all the foods that you're eating.
Right. And even if you have like the carnivore in the house and then the herbivore in the house, you got everybody of every sort. Do the cookie sheet with all the veggies, and then whether you're doing your meat in a skillet or on another cookie sheet, like you can keep it all separate, and then everyone can still pick and choose.
Exactly.
When my boys are around, they want other stuff as well. So it's an easy sort of thing. And then it's just kind of an assembly line, and it's fun. It's fun for everybody. And my kids are 24, 26, and 28, and they still find it fun. So maybe they're either really immature or they just have a lot of fun. I don't know which.
I think anytime it's like an art project, so anytime something can be creative, it's fun, right?
Yeah.
And that's another way too, to just laugh, like having fun, laughter, all of these just release all the feel-good hormones, the endorphins. And so that helps to relax us and to reduce the stress in our bodies.
Yeah.
Right. So that's like all just so important. When you think about everything that you do on a daily basis is to just bring more fun in. And cooking, I used to hate cooking. I have to admit, I really did. It was like,
I love cooking.
I love it now, but
Mhm.
it didn't appeal to me. And also I grew up where my parents worked. I was a latchkey kid, meaning, like I came home with key to an empty house. And so dinner a lot of times was frozen dinners or fast food sometimes. Well, actually that was like once a week. And only on occasion my mother would have time to cook. So
Mhm.
it was a burden. So it became a burden for me, right?
Right.
Interesting, because you've talked about like the tattoos of imprints from the past.
Totally. See, my mom, until later when I was, I guess, in high school, where she started to work outside the home, she literally would be cooking because she was at home a lot. And so I literally, from being a peanut, not able to see the counter, like I had a mini step stool, and I literally followed her around the kitchen, literally seeing what she was doing. So I grew up kind of right behind her, trying to cook with her. And so we cooked all the time.
I love that story, because I was actually thinking how, when you think if you have young kids and you're working at home, and, your spouse is working at home, and your kids are homeschooling with the remote learning, and they want to be involved, and we don't want to give them knives because they're too small. But having that step stool, or just coming around, right, maybe you do the chopping and then have them arrange all the vegetables on the sheet.
Right.
Or have them measure out the millet, the quinoa. And, even if they spill or they make a mess, it can be cleaned up.
And it's great. It's great. We had the best conversations, I have to say. It just opens up time for conversations. And I talked about it, doing the retreats with women. Like, there's something about having conversations around food and just creating. And I think allowing your kids to do that with you, especially now, I think it's a great thing.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree with you. So one thing I do want to mention as I look back at the vegetables, excuse me, I'm clearing my throat. The air is very dry today, and that's what happens to my throat when the air gets dry. I get a little bit of that dry cough. Time to bring out the humidifier. But the one thing that I want to mention with some of these vegetables, and the importance in terms of the nutrients, that is I think, great to learn and understand, especially for women, like broccoli, or I don't have broccoli sprouts here, but I want to bring up how, like vegetables, if you eat the colors of the rainbow, you're going to get vegetables that are high in calcium and vitamin C, and and nutrients like magnesium or B vitamins, and it's just so important to have the wide range. But what's interesting about broccoli and broccoli sprouts is they have a compound called sulforaphane. And sulforaphane is great at detoxifying the liver. And if you have some estrogen dominance, which I didn't realize I had when I was a teenager, estrogen dominance, you have heavy periods, you have major PMS, your estrogen levels are a lot higher, disproportionate to your other hormone levels. And you can go to your doctor and kind of figure out, where you're at. But sulforaphane helps to detoxify the liver, helps to clear the pathways. So it helps to break down.
Never knew that.
Yeah. But here's the thing, right? So people who, and this is where it's like, don't go and rush out and be like, oh, I'm going to eat gobs of the broccoli sprouts because it's got this sulforaphane, or let me go buy a supplement because it's got this, this compound. It's just going back to being mindful and the importance of eating whole foods.
Right. Well, truth be told, I love broccoli, and I like cauliflower as well, but I truly love broccoli. And I usually always have it on my cookie sheet. However, I forgot to buy it yesterday. Figures, right? I knew we were doing this, and I didn't have time this morning to go back to the store, but I did have asparagus. So I was just going for the color because I was missing green. And so everyone, see, you just kind of roll with it. I had green asparagus in the fridge, and so that's what's on in my plate.
Very healthy also. It's very
it is.
The liver. That's the point, right? When you eat a vegetable, it's giving you the nutrients.
Yeah, but I do love broccoli. But I found green, so I thought you'd be proud. I got green in.
I'm very proud. So, it's funny because I didn't grow up with broccoli. And my former husband's mother overcooked her broccoli so he has a horrible memory of broccoli. It was always brown, and just like wilted. So I never made it growing up. I never made it, and I never really ate it as a kid. So then you start thinking, well, gee, I wonder, like, what if I had eaten more broccoli?
Yeah, isn't that funny?
But then we can get into our head. So it doesn't matter what you might have done in the past, or what you believed in the past, or what you didn't have in the past. It's about being present now.
And just trying.
And just trying things. And if you think or say, I'm not a vegetable lover, or I'm not this, or I hate something, pause and spend time reflecting on why.
Yeah.
Where did that story come from? And it could be something from a past experience. And then it's not to say like, oh, I've got to go out and buy all these vegetables. Pick one, like pick a place to get started.
Right. And honestly, roasting them, I mean, literally, I have extra virgin olive oil, pepper, and I do like pink salt, Himalayan salt, and that's all except for my cinnamon. And it's great. And then we were going to do a tahini dressing, creamy tahini dressing.
Which you're going to put the recipe in the description, but can you share what the ingredients are of that? Because I haven't made mine yet.
Sure. And too bad I can't pull it up right now. So everything it is in the description, but it's tahini and lemon juice and Dijon mustard. And you can use honey or you can use maple syrup. Being I'm a vegan in the house, I use maple syrup because honey is not vegan. And then you have to whisk that. And then I think it's like 2 tablespoons of ice cold water. And then if it's still too thick, the idea is that it gets really creamy. So you just whisk it together and it kind of looks like this.
Oh, fantastic.
Taste.
I'm actually looking at the recipe right now, and I just want to make sure, because I did have it printed out, of all the ingredients, and which is fantastic, right? Because homemade dressings, and that's also something that's really important. When people, sometimes they say to me, it's expensive to eat healthy. It's expensive to buy organic. First of all, not everything has to be organic, and that could be a conversation for another episode.
Another episode.
Yeah, exactly. But you're spending money on dressings, right? You're spending money. So if you were to make it at home, a few things. There are preservatives in that dressing, and sometimes people don't realize that they get digestive distress from the ingredients in the dressing. So why not make it at home? Why not have it so that you can just create any type of dressing you want? That's so simple.
This literally is minutes. It was so easy to make. And we have tahini all the time in the house anyways. And interesting you say that, because originally, so there was a dressing that I love, a goddess dressing or something made from tahini, and it said vegan. And I thought, oh, cool, we could maybe use this. And Sharon said to me, can you read it? And so it had canola oil. And I want to bring this up, Sharon, because I think it's really interesting that I didn't realize the differences in some of this. I have every possible oil in the house, actually, except canola oil. But you said something really interesting to me that I think the audience should hear. So why is canola oil sort of a no, don't use that?
A great question. And I'm glad that you brought it up, because I was going to talk about olive oil, totally forgetting about the canola oil.
And this is made with olive oil. So.
Yeah. So canola oil is Canada oil. It was actually derived and made in Canada from what's called the rapeseed plants, which sounds terrible to begin with. And it's used in actually manufacturing as well. It has toxic properties to it. So they were looking for ways to increase oil production, have more edible oil solutions, cooking oils for people. So they refine, and it becomes an oil, but it actually does have some trans fats in it. And because it's refined so much to get rid of that toxicity and to reduce the flavor so that it's more of a neutral flavor, they say, oh, it's got some monounsaturated, polyunsaturated fats. My reasoning of not using canola oil is, if something has to go through so much processing, why are you using it? Same thing with foods. When we buy and shop in the aisles versus eating whole foods. Why? So as we were talking, and when my client, even when I learned this, it's just amazing, because we don't know what we don't know.
Right.
But we eat the advertisements of what we keep hearing over and over again. And when you hear it often enough, it feels like, well, it's a fact, and it's true. Right? So we switched to olive oil, and then people also, well, doesn't canola oil have a high smoke point? And all right, yes, it does. However, olive oil has a pretty high smoke point too. And then what does that even mean? And that has to do with the way the oil breaks down chemically. That makes it more oxidative, so that that creates more inflammation in the body. However, olive oil does have a high enough threshold where, unless you're deep frying something, which would,
buy an air fryer. Don't use oil. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So extra virgin. So then the next question is, well, I'm actually, hey, Robin, what's the next question?
Extra virgin olive oil, maybe?
So, okay, extra virgin olive oil, regular, cold press, what's the difference? Cold extracted. And I just want to share with you a couple of the oils. Whoop, I went off screen there.
Okay, I'm looking for you.
Yeah, kind of like, it's like the camera's not following me. So extra virgin olive oil, cold pressed, right? It's done either by centrifuge, which is cold extracted, or basically, in a machine, almost like mortar and pestle, but not by hand, where they take the olives and they're cold pressing it. They're not using any heat to extract the oil from the olive. So that's the healthiest type of olive oil that there is. So interestingly, I happen to like the Thrive Organic Extra Virgin Olive Oil, which says cold extracted. So that's done through the centrifuge, and it's a product of Greece. The other one of my favorite, and really my favorites are Italian, but I didn't have any to show you.
I have to just interrupt and tell you, when we were in Tuscany for the retreat, literally olive trees are right around the villa. And so our last evening there, they came and they put a small bottle, wasn't labeled, of oil on the table. Said, this is from us. And we're like, what is this? And they're like, we did it today. Like literally, as we watched them in the morning pull the olives, that's what they did. And it was amazing. Like when you have that and you taste that, there is such a difference in the world.
Absolutely. And, you know, interestingly too, when you buy store brands and you go to the supermarket, because we're used to just picking up a brand mindlessly,
Yeah.
you don't really know what's in it. And then when cold press, after that first press, then they refine it. And then they make regular oil, olive oil out of that. So you really
gotta go to Tuscany.
or go to Tuscany, right? Exactly. And we were there last year, like a month apart, I think, right? Because
Yeah.
right. And so next year, yeah, we're gonna do it together. So the other brand that I just wanted to share is California Olive Ranch. And so what's interesting here is that this one also, it says it's cold pressed, right? It comes California, Portugal, Chile, Argentina. Now this is important too, of looking for oils that give you the harvest date on the back and when it's good until. And can you see that on the bottom?
I can now. Yeah.
So that's important because a lot of the oils that are just manufactured and refined do sit on the shelves for a long time.
Wow.
So you know that ones that have the harvest date the Thrive one doesn't, but I use it often enough. And oh wait, actually, it just has an expired date. It doesn't have. But if you can find one that has the harvest date, it really then tells you how long ago it was harvested.
Wow.
And it's fresher, you know. And then you just look at where it's from. Do you pay more? Absolutely.
Right.
But it's the same as what we've talked about before. Are you being proactive in your health now,
Right.
and you know, you being the player on the court, or are you a spectator in the stands waiting, right, just doing the same old? So that's what's really important about the different types of olive oils that I hope will help everybody. And I would love for anyone who's now going to go shopping, take pictures, put them in the description below in the comments.
Yeah. Absolutely share them with us.
Definitely share it with us because there's so many kinds of olive oils, and experiment and go to Italy when we can travel again.
Yeah. Well, actually, the first weekend, if you can't go, come virtually with me next first weekend of February.
That's right. Oh, that's going to be a fantastic experience.
Yeah.
And you're going to have that information in the link below, in the description below also, right?
Yes, I will. Thank you.
Yes. Hint, hint. Yes. So, Robin, you have your bowl already set. Do you want to put yours together and just show everybody what it's going to look like? Because
Sure. Excuse me, one quick moment.
Yeah, we're getting out of the screen here. Let's probably stay in the camera. Here, this is my empty bowl. And, you know, the idea, and here's what's really important too when we talk about how much is enough food. And I think part of that challenge is not knowing, you know, do I use a half a cup of something? Do I use a cup of something else? You know, when it comes to rice or millet or anything else, you know, you use about a half a cup to a cup of millet. How much would you say you put in your bowl?
Oh gosh, actually not very much at all. Maybe, what do you think? A quarter of a cup, if that?
Okay.
I don't really know.
I eyeball, and I would say right now I probably have almost a cup of millet. And for me, that's also for me. I'm looking at, okay, that's going to give me some more of my protein. And do you like just organize it where? Can you tilt it a little bit more?
I'm trying. It's going to probably fall on my computer. So I just threw I took a couple onions. I have some asparagus, my peppers, my sweet potatoes. There's my rice. I have a radish. I had radishes. I've never roasted radish in my life, but why not try now?
Try now. And you're pouring, how much dressing do you put on top of that?
Do you know what? I might add more because sometimes I like a lot of dressing, and I know this one is pretty healthy. So I use a fork after it's mixed, and I just I go like this, and I drizzle it to cover it. So
I do the same thing.
I went this way one way, and then I made the crisscross.
I did the same thing. I don't take out measuring spoons. I just drizzle it, and it has a taste.
Oh, it's actually really good.
Yeah, I don't have dressing in mine, but I'm going to eat just a plain roasted tomato, which is
How'd you do?
Really good. Until you mentioned roasting tomatoes, I have to admit, it wasn't something that I did.
Mm-hmm.
It's really nice because it just brings out more of the flavor.
Yeah, it's juicy but it's warm, right? It just warms. I find tomatoes really warming. I love roasting tomatoes.
I love roasting vegetables altogether. It's just nourishing.
I do so many stir fries, and sometimes you get bored doing stir fries, but I find like this is healthier. You keep more nutrients in the vegetables. I'm not kind of breaking them down. They just do their thing. They come out, and it's a great meal. Just a great.
And it's an easy thing to plan. And if you struggle with not knowing, okay, if I buy fresh vegetables, how long is it going to sit? Next best thing can be frozen vegetables also. Of course, we always say fresh is best, but we also want to account for when we don't have time or we run out of things. So it is good to have a little stash in the freezer, which I do. I have my vegetables sometimes so that if it's one of those times where I don't have, it's easy to just whip that out, and you can make recipes with that as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But remember, it's just to keep nourishing, right? So when you do something like this, the idea is to remember this whole month is to just keep nourishing yourself and your mind and your body. And it's all about keeping yourself healthy. The whole thing is healthy.
What a great way to wrap up the month.
Good month.
It has been a good month. Well, next week, February starts. February, it's Heart Health Month and so many other things. But we're going to be back next week, and we're going to be cooking. Are we cooking again next week?
We are cooking next week. So we're going to flip it, and we're going to cook next week. We're going to prep for Super Bowl.
Right.
That's what we talked about. Like healthy, what can we do that's fun and make a twist on Super Bowl snacks?
Yes. So join us next Thursday for another episode of Unpacking Lunch and Life. As always, love doing it with you, Robin.
Love doing it with you, Sharon. It's a blast.
Have a good day.
Have a good day, everyone. Take care.
Take care.